Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, the second slice of this planned trilogy pie, finally lands on PC. It's big, bold and beautiful, sure, but is it also boring, bland and a load of old bollocks? Well, that depends where you stand with RPGs, especially ones dipped in that sweet Japanese flavour. Either way, I've given the gameplay a proper see into, and today we're focusing on the much hyped PC upgrades and to answer the burning question, is it worth shelling out again if you've already hammered it on the PS5? Stick the kettle on, grab a cuppa and let's dive arse first into the world of Final Fantasy VII. Right, a blockbuster like this lives or dies by its story. If you've played the original, you've got a rough idea of what's coming. But even then, Rebirth throws a few spanners in the works to keep you on your toes. Now, I've clocked more than enough hours to give you a proper review here, but don't worry, I've only used footage from the early parts of the game. No spoilers, my loves. That said, I'll admit the start of Rebirth is banging. It hooks you in with all its mystery and drama. I found myself glued to the screen, itching to unravel the chaos Sephiroth's been shit stirring up and figure out why Tifa is, well, Tifa. She's like a human furnace for the teenagers amongst us, pure hot stuff. But here's the issue I had, and that revolves around the story pacing. In the middle, it gets proper bogged down, like wading through custard. By the time the credits rolled, I didn't feel triumphant, I felt bloody relieved and, dare I say, a little disappointed at its conclusion. Whisper it softly, lads and lasses, but I reckon they dragged this middle chapter out a bit too much. It's got that second album syndrome, and honestly, this trilogy might have been tighter as a two-ology. It's like when your teacher assigned a 2,000-word essay and you're padding it out with waffle just to hit the word count. That's Rebirth in a nutshell, a brilliant story at its core, yes, but stretched thinner than a Yorkshireman's wallet. And with a story like this, you need top-notch delivery, and I'll give credit where it's due here. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is fully voice acted, and when it's good, it's proper good. Cloud and Aerith have some genuinely moving moments, and even that dog bloke, what's his name, Red something or other, he sounds like he's stepped right out of a smoky jazz club, smooth as you like. But don't get too comfortable either, because this is JRPG territory and you know what that means. Script writing's so cheesy, it makes a fondue pot look bland. Yeah, I get it, that's par for the course with a JRPG, but there are moments here where you'll cringe so hard, your face might freeze that way. And when you see Tifa and Aerith giggling and being all flirty, you just wish that Cloud would grow some bollocks and ask outright for a threesome. He's an absolute pathetic lad and a bit annoying for me with his attitude that's just glum as f***. Barrett for me though is the character that epitomises the groans that I had. That bloke shouts every single bloody line like he's auditioning for the WWE. It's like the writers went, right lads, let's make him as loud and over the top as humanly possible, and they just stayed there with it. Sure, he's meant to be all bravado and the tough guy, I get, but after a while you're sitting there thinking, alright mate, calm your tits, maybe use your indoor voice just for once. Some of these characters are so one-dimensional you'd be forgiven for wanting to give them a slap just to liven things up a bit. Thankfully though, there's enough quality stuff here to balance it all out, so you can forgive the cringeworthy moments, but be warned, if you're not a fan of JRPG melodrama, some of this dialogue might have you groaning louder than Barrett mid-monologue. Now, if there's one thing you can't knock about Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, it's the presentation, and the cinematography, chef's kiss. While most RPGs slap you with some over-the-shoulder shot and drown you in walls of text that make you wish for death by PowerPoint, Final Fantasy puts in the graft. The cutscenes here, they go all out. High-fidelity character models front and centre, dramatic close-ups galore, and sweeping shots of the world that make you think, that's bloody lovely. It's like the devs were trying to make a film instead of a game, and honestly, it pays off. And for those of you on your second or third lap, don't worry, they've got your back here. There's a handy little option to fast forward or skip cutscenes entirely. So if you're thinking, yeah, I've seen it all before, you can just crack on without losing the will to live. Right then, let's talk gameplay. As you'd expect, you're legging it about, bashing monsters and bad guys to rack up that sweet experience and level up. Along the way, you've got your usual mix of side quests and main story shenanigans, standard RPG fare. But here's where I've got a bone to pick. The game, it treats you like a bloody toddler who needs their handheld at every single turn. For example, you've got these big blue arrows on the floor every time you're climbing, hopping or tackling any kind of obstacle, practically screaming, "Oi you twat, this way." Where's the sense of adventure in that, I ask? And let's not forget the cutscenes. As nice as they are to look at, they pop up so often that they'll have you grinding to a halt just when you're getting into the swing of things. This open world shift is without doubt one of the standout features, and it deserves all the praise it gets. But here's the issue, the world, it doesn't feel natural enough when you're roaming about. Cloud has this sort of awkward little animation or stutter whenever he's trying to climb over a small crevice or make a simple jump. It's like watching your old man trying to hop a fence after a few pints. Painful and unnecessary. And then there's those bright yellow painted ledges and blue arrows pointing out every single bloody entryway. Visually, the world looks cracking, full of personality and dripping with that classic Final Fantasy lore that we all know and love. But as much as it's got the looks, it struggles to feel truly alive. It's weird to explain it, but the open world somehow manages to feel like it's on rails, like you've got the freedom you want, but you still feel like you're being nudged along the path that the devs have set out for you. It's a good effort, but it's missing that spark to take it from good to bloody brilliant. Now, what is a win, and an absolute belter of one, is the glorious combat. Mate, I couldn't get enough of it. I was going out my way to hunt down every critter, beastie and bad guy just for an excuse to throw hands. You've got spells to exploit enemy weaknesses, special sword abilities that you can unleash after filling up your action bar. The combat's got this brilliant little trick where time slows down while you're deciding what ability to use, almost straddling the line between real-time action and turn-based strategy. It's like the best of both worlds, and it works really, really well. Then just when you think it can't get any better, they throw in the ability to swap characters on the fly or pull off these synergy moves, combining two characters into a proper frenzy of attack. And you're not just fighting anymore, you're dancing. There he is, Cloud, swiping his sword left, right and centre, carving up enemies like they owe him money. Meanwhile, Barrett's raining down bullets like it's the 4th of July, and Tifa's in the mix, giving it the old 1-2 slap. It's pure chaos, but it's the good kind of chaos, the kind that reminds you of a classic arcade beat-em-up from yesteryear. Nostalgia meets innovation here, and it's bloody glorious. For me then, the combat alone is worth the price of entry. It's a proper spectacle, and I can't praise it enough in Rebirth. And that, my pedigree chums, is why the PC version of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth feels so transformative compared to its PS5 counterpart. If you've played this game before and you're a big fan, for me it is worth double dipping, because this is truly how it's meant to be played. Now, I'm not going to sit here and blow smoke. It's not all sunshine and rainbows. The PC options are, let's be honest, a bit crap in terms of scope. There's not a ton of options to write home about, and let's face it, if you want this looking its absolute best, you're going to need a proper beefy PC. None of that budget laptop malarkey, because you'll frankly be better on the PS5. But if you've got the kit and can hit that maximum 120 frames per second at full settings, you're in for a treat. The lighting is noticeably more varied, shadows with ambient occlusion are doing the Lord's work here, and the draw distance is miles ahead, quite literally. The high fidelity models throughout add a lovely layer of polish that the PS5 version just can't quite match. Character models in particular are superb, with every little strand of hair on display and the eyes glinting with that watery texture. I still say Cloud looks like a shit footballer who used to play in the Championship, but overall it's top notch. As for HDR, I'm not entirely convinced it's working properly on the PC. It looks a bit washed out at times, but to be fair, that could just as easily be a Windows 11 special bug of theirs rather than the game itself. It's certainly not bad, it's just not as striking as I would have liked. Still, when you see sparks flying as your sword clashes with an enemy or gaze over the big sprawling open world, it's hard not to feel like this is a truly glorious rendition of an all-time classic. That said, with the limited graphical options, you can't help but wonder, how much further could this have been pushed? It's like dressing Margot Robbie in a onesie. Still stunning of course, but there's an extra gear to go there. When it comes to sound, it's hard to find much to moan about. The orchestral brilliance of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth absolutely shines here. Deep, sweeping strings roll out as you wander into a new part of the map, like the game's giving you a proper fanfare just for showing up. Then just as the chaos kicks off, the combat music storms in, pumping adrenaline straight into your veins to match the madness that unfolds on your screen. And when the game takes a somber turn, the music dials it back perfectly, doing its best to tug on your heartstrings. The sound effects too are a joy, richly detailed and immersive. Every object, footsteps, sword swipe and bustling town feels alive and meticulously crafted. I whacked on a pair of decent headphones for this and it was pure bliss listening to the chaos unfold directly into my eardrums. It's like being in the middle of a pub brawl without the actual threat of being glassed. You can't really argue with that. But here's where it wobbles, and it's that bloody script again. Yes, I appreciate the effort to fully voice a game of this scale, hats off for that, but the delivery, lads, some of it is so cringe-inducing, you'll be praying for the ground to open up and swallow you whole. I've genuinely seen better acting in porn. Still, overall, the sound is top tier, the music and effects add so much to a already beautiful looking game, wrapping everything in a lush, immersive audio package. Just keep a stiff drink handy for those voice lines. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth on PC then is the full package. Sure, the improvements might have your eyes rolling when you first crack open the settings menu, nothing that's going to blow your socks off, but don't be fooled. This is how it's meant to be played. The sum of its parts most definitely make up the whole, and yes, that's what she said. Now, if this is your first rodeo in the Final Fantasy universe, and dare I say you should probably play the original first, you're going to need to embrace the quirks, the ridiculous delivery, the melodrama dialed up to 11. It's all part of the charm, but that said, I reckon Final Fantasy could do with a dose of the adult pill. It doesn't need to go full HBO or lose its family-friendly rating, but it does need better writers to bring its world and characters to life without all the cringe. The combat though is bloody stunning, fast-paced, beautifully designed enemies and a world dripping with personality. It's an absolute joy to play. You'll be smashing through battles and admiring the artistry of it all. Final Fantasy Rebirth then is a bit of an oxymoron. It's brilliantly average or averagely brilliant depending on how you want to spin it, but either way it's a cracking time if you can just look past all the fluff. Until next time my lovelies, Reggie out.